Thanks, Jack. Are your ears burning? Yesterday I had a chance to be with some American Baptist Church pastors and with Don Scott over at Franklin College yesterday. And Don Scott says, "How's it going over in New Unionville?" And I says, "Man, I'm loving it, having a good time, and just doing great." So I spoke highly of you and us together. So good to be church family and to have those relationships. And I pray that we will continue to build relationships as the Lord brings those people to us. Thanks so much for inviting people. Last week we had a pretty good crowd. And so I just want to encourage you to continue to invite and just want to encourage you to invite. And so it's good to reach out to those people. So continue to reach out on a weekly basis. There was a 6th grade teacher in California that for a creative writing assignment, she asked her children to complete this statement. And she said, I wish, and complete this, I wish that. And of course she thought a lot of the kids would say, I wish that I had a bicycle, I wish that I had a TV in my room, or I wish I could go on a trip to Hawaii. But much to her surprise, 20 of the 30 students in her class wished for things in their family to be better. Let me read just a few. One kid said, I wish my parents wouldn't fight, and I wish that my father would come back. Another one said, I wish my mother didn't have a boyfriend. Another one said, I wish I could get straight A's, that my father would love me. And one said, I wish I had one mom and one dad so the kids wouldn't make fun of me. I have 3 moms and 3 dads, and they botch up my life. Today I'm launching a new series called Families in Focus. And today I simply want to help families, and that's all of us. All of us in families, no matter where we are at in the journey, I want to help families in some very practical areas of life. And so today I want to focus on building a strong family which can help us answer the questions, what's a family for? What is our purpose? It was Mother Teresa. She was asked upon receiving a Nobel Peace Prize, they says, what can we do to promote world peace? And she says, here's her answer. She says, if you want to promote world peace, go home and love your family. The idea for today's message is taken from a survey from 2 professors. One was from the University of Alabama and the other one was from the University of Tennessee. In 50 newspapers in 25 different states, they put a little short ad in the newspaper that basically said this: if you live in a strong family, please contact us. We know a lot about what makes families fail, but we need to know more about what makes them succeed. And from that little survey that went in the newspaper, they received over 3,000 responses from strong families. And interestingly enough, as they compiled the responses, they discovered that every one of them were saying basically the same thing. And from them, they had 6 key ingredients for a strong family. And those same 6 ingredients amazingly line up with what Scripture would say. Here's 6 things that you need to build a strong family. And so these things are for us. I don't want you to go back because there's not a whole lot we can do with our past. But these are 6 building keys for us today to build strong families. And it's a constant work no matter where we're at. But at the same time, I want you to realize that these same key ingredients are for church family. Aren't we a family in our relationships? So you're saying, oh man, my kids are raised, I don't have to worry about family. Well, yeah, you do. I don't care what age you are, you're always working with family to build your family. And you're always working at our relationships within our church family. So there's something for everybody today. Here's these 6 key ingredients. First one is this. The first key ingredient was commitment. Commitment was the first one. Strong families have a sense of being a team. There's a family identity. There's unity. They invest their time, their energy. They invest their heart. A strong family has a motto that says, family first. I mean, family's high on the priority list. Everything, including their schedules, revolve around family. They live their family life. It's successful. They pour all their time and their energy into their family. Do they have other responsibilities and obligations? Yes. But they, in light of all that, they fit around to make sure that family's first. Now, what is our first commitment? Our first commitment, isn't it God and then family? God is our first commitment and foremost commitment. But our commitment to our spouse, our commitment to children and to our parents is right behind it and even complements it. So for those of you who are parents, the best way to show your commitment to your family is to demonstrate commitment to your spouse. All right? Ephesians 5:21, it talks to husbands and wives. All right? Husband and wives, listen to what Paul said in Ephesians 5:22. Underline the first 4 words. It says, submit to one another. Submit to each other out of reverence for Christ. And then there's Ephesians 5:22 that talks specifically to women. Paul says, you wives will submit. Submit to your husbands as to the Lord. And then there's to the men in Ephesians 5:25. Here's for the men. You husbands must love your wives with the same love Christ showed the church, and He gave up His life for her. So ladies, you can circle Ephesians 5:22. You can circle the word submit. And guys, you can circle the word love. There's so much that could be addressed here, but I think the issue of submission and love really boils down to the level of commitment that you have for each other and also to Christ. So fathers, your kids need to see that you're totally committed to their mom. And to the moms, your kids need to know that they are totally committed, that you are committed to their dad. And the kids need to know that you're both totally committed to them and keeping your family together in a loving relationship. Now, there are those who are not adults, but they may be at home. You have the same responsibility and the same commitment to your parents that they have to you. Proverbs 17:6 from the New Contemporary Version says this, old people are proud of their grandchildren, and children are proud of their parents. So you can underline that. Children are proud of their parents. Now I realize that there may be someone here who had an unfortunate experience and maybe didn't have parents that you felt were very proud or supported you, or maybe you never knew your parents. But most of us had good parents, and they need to know, and you need to know, that we're all committed to this family, to the success of the family as the parents are and the kids are. Don't be like the little boy who was overheard praying, and he said, Lord, Lord, if you can't make me a better boy, don't worry about it. I'm having a real good time like I am. All right? But commitment is vitally important. Committed to each other. Good days, bad days, tough days. We are a unit, and we're gonna make this together. We're committed. And that happens in the church as well. We've got to be committed together. Here's the second key for a strong family, and that is time together. Time together. 1,500 kids were asked this question, what makes families happy? And out of these 1,500 kids, over 90% of them gave the same answer, spending time together. Psalm 68:6, first part of that verse says, God places the lonely in families. Families is God's idea. God has put us together to bond and strengthen and to fulfill each other's needs. Now, whether we come from a big family or maybe we're just a couple or we're single, God has designed you in such a way that He's put people around you, your circle of influence. There's a reason for these people to be together. Now you're thinking, why did God put me in a family? He didn't put you in a family just to have a place to sleep or eat, or a place just so I could watch television. He put us together so that we can grow together. And that happens only as we spend time together. Doesn't mean that we don't ever have our own personal time, but most of the times we're together. And togetherness is a good thing. When my kids were younger, I tried not to miss any of their activities. When they were playing t-ball, I tried to be there most every game. That or ballet, I was there. Didn't matter what they were doing. Now, was it because it was so fun to go to t-ball games? They're fun. I know Mick's coaching Trey. They're a blast. But the reason to go to the game was I knew that my kids were looking over to see if mom or dad were there. As working in youth ministry, I didn't understand it, but there were times where none of the family showed up to watch a game. And that's vitally important to watch them, because I know they're looking to see and feel that support. Now, I know that not always do our schedules fit that we could go to games and stuff, but we need to do everything we can. Just like yesterday, I had a meeting that went from 9 to 4. Shayna had her ballet recital, one a year, at 3 o'clock. And it was over in Franklin. So I got on the email and I says, Don Scott, Dr. Don, Shayna's got ballet at 3. Is there any way I could leave a couple hours early? You know what he said? And then it says, this is the one time a year. He said, no. He said, sure, you should be there. You know, you can't make those things up. So I'm glad that I was able to go yesterday. See, when it comes to time together, I want us to also understand that not everything revolves around your kids. It's good to have the kids, and you should do things together, but I say to all men, no matter how long you've been married, when's your date night? You need to keep dating. We all need to keep dating. You need to take your wife out. Take her to a movie. Take her to eat. Whatever you like to do together. And don't go to McDonald's. Go somewhere nice like Burger King. But take her out. I got on my phone and I texted my wife this earlier in the last week, and I realized it's been a few weeks since we've had a chance to date. And I said, Peg, will you go out on a date with me? And she said yes. So Friday night, I had a gift card, and we went to Longhorn, and then we went to Lowe's. That's what you do after you've been married for 25 years. You go to Lowe's. The point is this. You only have so much time in this life. We need to spend it wisely. If you have children, it goes as fast as the sand through your hands. And you don't realize that until you get on the other side. They're going to grow up and they'll be out of your house. You need to do everything you can to what the Rovensteins used to say, let's make a memory together. Spend time together. Make those memories precious, because it's amazing. Whenever the kids come home, you know what they want to do? They want to watch the old movies when I had the camera out. So those music, and not only for the kids, but husband and wife. It's very important to keep dating. So spend some time together. Here's the third one. Appreciation. Appreciation. Strong families have the ability to express appreciation. Here's a quote. Home is where the family members go when they are tired of being nice to other people. Thank the Lord that I don't have to be nice to anybody else because I'm going home. And that person who's working on the phone all week, talking to those people that call in, she goes home and she just screams at her family. Or the pastor who shakes hands all morning and greets people and showers them with love and appreciation, and then he goes home and he doesn't show appreciation to the family. I tell my kids all the time, whether it's texting or notes or communication, how much I appreciate them, how I'm so proud of them. And it doesn't matter what age they are. Show appreciation. Shower them with appreciation. Appreciation and adding value to family members gives them a great sense of security. It was Bill Glass. Bill Glass surveyed men in prison, and 90% of them remember their parents telling them that you're bad and you're going to end up in jail. That's probably not a good thing to continue to tell them. You got to shower them with appreciation, because kids will be kids. Appreciation for our spouses, our children, and parents goes a long way towards a successful home. Let's contrast a couple of verses in Proverbs about wives. All right, Proverbs 18:22 says, the man who finds a wife, underline the next three words, finds a treasure. and receives favor from the Lord. Now let's contrast that to Proverbs 21:19. It said, it is better to live alone in the desert than with a crabby, complaining wife. All the men said, that was your chance. But listen, guys, listen to this. Listen. The fact is, the difference between a wife who is a treasure and the one that is a crabby complainer just might come down to how much she's appreciated around the home. Here's the fourth one. Fourth key to a strong family is communication. Communication. Families that are strong have ability to communicate. It was in the Dallas Morning News that it said this. It says that the average couple that has been married 10 years or longer, they only communicate with each other 37 minutes a week. One husband confessed, he says, "My wife says I don't listen to her. At least I think that's what she said." And maybe you've heard this story by Zig Ziglar. He tells about a lady who came to him, was wanting to talk to him, counseling about divorce. The pastor asked, says, "Do you have any grounds?" "Oh yeah, we have about 9 acres south of town." He says, No, I mean, do you have a grudge?" She says, "No, we've got a carport." He says, No, I mean, does your husband beat you up in the morning? Does he beat you up? And he says, "No, I'm usually the first one up around our house. I'm a morning person." And he says, "Then why are you having trouble with your husband?" "Well, he just doesn't communicate." This one's really simple. Talk to each other with your eyes. Not only hear, but I mean listen to what each other's saying. Communication is vital. Here's the fifth one. Coping skills. Coping with life. Coping with things that happen. There was a mother who was preparing pancakes for her 2 small children. And Kevin was 5 and Ryan was 3. Boys began to argue over who was going to get the first pancake. Mother says, "Hey, this is an opportunity to share a moral lesson here." And she says, "Boys, if Jesus was here and he was sitting right here, he would say, 'Let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait.'" So Kevin turned to Ryan. He says, "Ryan, you be Jesus." Obviously, Kevin had learned how to cope quite well with that situation. But I'm talking, how do we cope? How do we cope when problems come up? How do we cope when there's a crisis situation? See, strong families and strong church families see something positive in a crisis. They pull together. They're flexible. They draw on spiritual strength. Now listen to this. Don't ever believe that families that break up have problems and families that stay together don't. Family breakups have nothing to do with problems. See, there are people in this very room that have kept their marriage together with bigger problems than those who have broken up. Let me share with you real quick some statements about problems and families. The first one is this. Every family has problems. Every family has problems. It's just that simple. My family has problems. Your family has problems. All God's family has problems. Exactly. We all have problems. So don't look at your family or my family and say, we've got to get ourselves all spiritually wonderful so we don't have problems. There's no such thing. See, Adam and Eve sinned, and when they sinned and were disobedient to God, guess what happened? Problems. Problems have been a part of life ever since that day. So you have problems in your family? You're not alone. Every family has problems. Here's the second thing. I found this to be true over 20 years of ministry and working with people, that not all families respond the same way to problems. Not all families respond the same way. There's a Chinese symbol for crisis. And that same symbol also means opportunity. See, one family may see a problem as a crisis, and it's a problem, it's a crisis, and another family says, let's seize this opportunity. Here's a third one. Our response to problems, we all have a response. Our response to problems will make us or break us. See, we would all be divorced. We would all be broken up if problems caused divorce. But I've heard people say that, well, we didn't have a marriage that was made in heaven, so we broke up. Well, make that here on earth. Have you ever heard the story of a kid? They wanted to make these kids wanted to give their dad a family, kind of a family album about his family, a history book about his family. And to their embarrassment, they found that there was one family member who was a real black sheep, and that was Uncle George. Matter of fact, George had been electrocuted for murder. And so they got this creative biographer who said, hey, no problem, I'll write it. Here's what he wrote about Uncle George. He wrote, he occupied a chair of applied electronics at an important government institution. He was attached to his position by the strongest of ties, and his death came as a real shock. That's the way you cope with the stress of family. But listen to this, friends, we have problems. We have things in life. The first step in coping with any and all problems is to bring the Lord into the mix. Bring the Lord into the mix of those problems. Psalms 10:17 says, Lord, you know the hopes of the helpless. Surely you will listen to their cries and comfort them. Here's the sixth one. The sixth key to a strong family. The last is spiritual health. Spiritual health. After there was a baby dedication, there was a dedication of a baby brother in church. I know Jason was the older brother. Jason, he sobbed all the way home in the back of the car. His dad asked him 3 times, Jason, are you okay? What's going on? Jason just sobbed. And finally, Jason spoke up and said, Dad, the preacher said that he wanted us to be brought up in a Christian home, and I wanted to stay with you guys. There is a secular survey that said one of the 6 components of a strong family is the spiritual health of that family. That's secular, saying spiritual health is vitally important. And then it coincides with another survey that showed that faithful parents produce faithful children. And it revealed that if the mother and father, if they both attend church on a regular basis, that 72% of the children will be faithful church attenders as adults. It said if only the dad attends church regularly, 55% will remain faithful. If only mom attends church regularly, then only 15%. If neither attend regularly, 6%. God's word concerning Abraham should teach us the importance of spiritual instruction in the home. Genesis 18:19 says this. It says, I have singled him out so that he will direct, underline that he will direct his sons and their families. If you want to circle 2 words, sons and families. To what? To keep the way of the Lord and to do what's right and just. See, understand that your spiritual commitment to your kids, it didn't begin on the day that they were born. Some parents say, oh my goodness, let's get our spiritual acts together because we've got these kids and let's go to church. Let's do the right thing. Your spiritual commitment doesn't start when your kids are there. It should start with you, before they were born. In the last chapter of Joshua, and I conclude with this, Joshua gathered the people together, and he wanted to have some last words with them. And the last words of a leader are vitally important. And here's what he told them in Joshua 24:14-15. He said, so honor the Lord and serve Him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. But if you are willing to serve the Lord, then choose you today whom you will serve. Would you prefer the gods of your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or will it be the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you now live? But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And then in verse 31, in Joshua 24, it says, Israel served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the leaders who outlived him, those who had personally experienced all that the Lord had done for Israel. There was a group of mothers, and they were having this discussion about the spiritual influence on their children's lives. And they wondered, how do you spiritually impact your family? And finally, one dear wise grandmother piped up and said, I decided to develop the spiritual commitment of my children 20 years before they were born by committing my life to Jesus Christ. Isn't that key? If we want to build into our families, that is key, is our spiritual commitment. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. So have you committed your life to Christ? If not, make that commitment today. That's key in building a strong family. Time together, appreciation, communication, coping skills, and spiritual health is vitally, vitally important. Let me say this, and then we're going to have communion. There are two things that I see in life that are God ordained. One is the church. God gave His life for the body of the church. He prayed for its unity. He prayed for it to be together, one heart and one mind. And guess what? What would the enemy want to destroy? He destroys whatever God's put together, right? And we have to be careful and understand the enemy, anything that God's put together, He wants to destroy, and the church is one of them. What's the other one? God has ordained to put us in families. Why is it so hard in marriage and family life? Because the enemy wants to tear apart what God's put together. And I think that's why it's so vitally important that we, with every bit of commitment, say, I'm committed to my family. And here's some key things. But also, that's why it's so important when the pastor says, are you committed to the body of Christ? Are you committed to each other? Because God has put us together for a reason and as a purpose. Not only in the church, but also in my family. I'm not here to beat up anything that's happened in the past. But I wanted to give us these strong key ingredients that you and I need to build upon, that we can have a strong church and that we can have strong families. But we have to make that choice today. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. Let's just sing one verse of this song in preparation for communion. My Jesus.